We're ready when you are, then. We're on? Yeah. All right, then, we'll call this meeting to order. This is the regular school board meeting in Glendale-River School Board, October 8th. It is 6 p.m. We are here, and I'll take roll call for board members. Chris Robinson. Here. Katie Avalos. Here. Arden Cromwell. Here. Carla Pennington Cross is here. Danielle Bailey is excused. She has a lot of sickness in the family and she's not feeling well. So she will not make it to. At this time, if you wish, you may stand to join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on. What's this now? Moving on to item 1D, agenda approval.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Karn, second by Katie Avalos to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is approved. Moving on to item 1E, approval of the board meeting minutes from September 24, our last one. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the board meeting minutes from September 24th.
Second.
Any discussion or edits? Hearing nothing, I have a motion by Katie Avalos with a second by Chris Robinson to approve the board meeting minutes for September 24, 2025. All in favor? Aye. Hearing 4 ayes, minutes are approved. And moving on to item 1F, the meeting grounding. Chris, thank you for agreeing to lead us in the meeting grounding.
Sure.
In a recent meeting, our board passed a number of celebratory resolutions, including the recognition and support of Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, which goes from September 15th through October 15th. While we passed the resolutions all at once, we decided to specially highlight some of the resolutions as their celebrations came near. While Hispanic or Latinx Heritage Month has been recognized and celebrated by our district for some time, this year it's possible that it's more important than ever. Our Latinx Hispanic students might turn on the TV and hear disparaging remarks about their ancestral countries and the people that come from them. We care about our kids and want them to be able to be proud of themselves and their families. Our Latinx or Hispanic students and their families are living with the reality that it is now legal to detain someone regarding their suspected immigration status because they're speaking Spanish or because of the color of their skin. We care about our kids and we want them to feel safe and secure. Students who feel safe and secure are better able to focus on their learning. Our Latinx or Hispanic students might worry about being separated from their parents, regardless of their immigration status. We care about our kids and want them to be safe and to feel safe. Our district vision is to be a community that pursues equity, where each person belongs and thrives. To that end, it's important that we affirm that each student is welcome and loved, that each person in our community belongs in our community. As we elevate and celebrate the numerous Latinx people who have made our world a better place, we help all students gain a better understanding of the rich heritage and contemporary contributions of the Latinx population. Education can replace fear with understanding. It can transform love into hate. Our very vision requires it. I know the board is grateful to our educators and administrators for their hard work in creating meaningful celebrations, culturally responsive curricula, and a loving, welcoming environment for all students throughout the year. Building such a culture is one of the many ways we support the whole child growth pillar of our strategic plan. As a board, I know we will work hard to provide the district staff with the support they need to help our students feel safe and loved every month of the year. Thank you, Chris.
Sit with that for a second. So
I know, right?
state, right? Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Moving on to public comments. At this time, visitors may speak on any non-agenda item, if you wish. I see Mr. Martin is back and ready. Please state your name and address. And say what you wish to say.
Wayne Martin, 7275 North Port Washington Road, apartment number 1221, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53217. Yeah, few things. The Parkway Glen Hills PTO has some unclaimed property on Wisconsin unclaimed property. I'm not sure what the VA is on as well.
Okay.
Leave that there for them. And then yesterday, there was a City of Glendale presentation on their parks program. And it sounds like they're amenable to working with Glendale-River Hills District to potentially do some outdoor work. I know there was a plan a few months back that was scrapped because of cost. They might be willing to chip in some of the funds for that and try to get some grants for it, so. I know you're going to be talking about facilities maintenance, so they're willing to at least work with the outdoor part with you on that. At least it sounds like it. And then
Thank you.
last one, I know you're a while back talking about putting in an insert with real estate tax bills that go out for Glendale and River Hills, explaining how the school levy is spent. As I was thinking while looking at some real estate tax bills, that the school district number isn't put on the ones that are issued for Glendale, at least. I don't know about River Hills. In school district 4-digit number goes on the tax return. I don't know if that does anything for school funding or not, but just to potentially make it easier, if it is any benefit to put the Glendale River Hills School District number on the real estate tax bill, which is 2184. Don't know if that does anything, but I hope it does. Maybe put it on. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be talking about the tax bill in the legislative update section of our agenda. Well, so. that- Anyone else to wish to make comments? No one online. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 3A, a bullying report, an update.
All right, I am going to be asking our school administrators, Mr. Williams and Mr. Kreger, to review the policy of 5517, the bullying, and share their school plans, especially around creating a safe and positive environment, and how they will respond to bullying in alignment with our board policy. I did attach a report from the board, just kind of outlining a report of incidences. So what we do is each year we track information. We've been using a tool called EduClimber as a way to track our incidents. Those incidences are reported both by teachers or by administrators. You can see that at both Parkway and Glen Hills, we saw an increase in the reported incidents of bullying. I would attribute some of this to teacher familiarity with being able to put the information into a new tool that was new the year before. I also think that what this captures is both the victim of bullying, the participant, and so in some cases, if there's multiple participants or multiple offenders, essentially, in that case, that beefs up that number a little bit too, right? And I think there's some incidences that have happened where there's multiple students involved, so you start to see that increase happen.
I see. So
Yeah.
if I see the number 42, it's not necessarily 42 separate.
It may not be that 42 students were essentially accused of bullying. It may be there were 42 students involved in that, in an incident surrounding that, and it may be that they were a witness. It could be that they were, you know what I mean? Like it's sort of situated in that. So you're not just looking at the person who you're seeing both the offender and the victim in the numbers. And you'll sort of understand a little bit more about why that is the case when we get into this section where you'll start to hear about sort of the things that our staff are doing. Because in those instances, we need to make sure that we're tending to both parties, right? And we need documentation around both parties in order to offer the layer of support that's there. Okay. So We know that our school leadership is supposed to be attentive and responsive to data in a way that improves both prevention and intervention practices. Some of the school responses that are in place already are clarity of expectations. So teachers and staff have reinforced those behavior expectations of students to ensure they're clear, age appropriate, and consistent for the school year. Consistent responses, so staff are applying consistent responses to behavior incidents to hold students accountable. Also family engagement, so we've invited families in during our first parent university to provide both feedback and insights into our current matrices. And then the middle school saw the greatest increase, and so in response to that, the administration has expanded prevention efforts by using the Wisconsin DPI bullying prevention toolkit. And Mr. Williams will have an opportunity to talk about what that entails with his staff. We pulled in the student services team to work through that process and use their expertise to help guide staff and improve instruction around positive behaviors and structured responses to bullying. And then in addition to that, we looked at prevention through teacher and support, so lessons and interventions that teachers are learning about how to implement within their classroom context. So as October is Bullying Prevention Month, I'm asking both middle school principal and elementary school principal to take some time and talk about the actions that we're putting in place this year to address bullying within our school district. So, Mr. Kreger, if you'd like to come up and start first, Mr. Kreger has a child with a birthday, so we want to make sure he is.
Thank you for being here.
So yeah, at Parkway, we are fortunate that Mr. Tilley gets to teach our SEL curriculum. So there is in October, there is a bullying lesson plan that is being taught through second step through Mr. Tilley. And that happens every October. He's very familiar with it. He also has handouts that go home around tips to stand up for bullying, as well as kind of giving clear definitions for families so that we're kind of consistent with language, because that can be tricky at our age. And so that's what happens in our SEL curriculum. We intentionally focus our pride words in the month of October around kindness. We talk about ways that we are kind to each other, both inside and outside of school. And then over the announcements, we'll be intentional around talking about those ways we're kind as well. With trying to infiltrate those announcements with different ways and tips and tricks that Mr. Tilley is also teaching in his SEL curriculum as well. I will say one of the brief conversations we've had with staff recently is last week, Thursday, we did some relationship mapping with staff as well. And so they were able to identify students they built positive relationships with. I had a conversation with Anna and then actually with a couple other staff members who brought up the maybe importance of doing relationship mapping with students. And so that we know that every student has more than one adult that they feel comfortable to go to. In conversations that I have with parents often is a lot of our students feel comfortable with many adults, but they come home and they share with their parents who they trust and love, right? We want, not that we're trying to replace that, but we're also trying to give them more access to people and adults to help them problem solve throughout their days. So very elementary way of talking about bullying, but yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, Chris, any questions or comments?
I just have a comment about the report, if I could. Are the numbers reported incidents or like verified?
Reported.
Okay.
Right, and we did have a conversation as an administrative team about making sure that verification, and I can't speak because I wasn't the person who was entering them, so
Right.
typically when you investigate something, if you determine that it's not, you probably want to change the coding in that, so that that's behind the students, right?
Right.
And so I think the administrators themselves can talk about whether or not those have been investigated, or if some of them may be carrying a thing that hasn't been fully investigated, that maybe is sitting there, right?
Okay.
So that would be a concern that I have, is making sure we're really deliberate about making sure that once those have been investigated, since a teacher can just do it and an administrator receives it,
Right.
they may do the work around the investigation, determine that it's not, but then you've got to go back and change that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did have one other, are there any opportunities for students to get involved in bullying prevention? And
No.
that may be more at the middle school level.
Yeah, No, but I think it's a good point. I think Ms. Ishii and I have discussed ways to provide even more leadership opportunities, especially for our third graders. So I think that would be a great way to like incorporate that within the leadership of our building. So I will take that back to her as we talk about that with our third graders, but it's a great idea.
Katie?
Not really, like, it's, I mean, it's, foundational at Parkway, but I feel like what you guys are doing helps build that foundation. Age appropriateness is kind of thing.
So I have, again, a question about the reporting and then also a question for you, but with reporting, with regards to the reporting, is this a standard report? Like, is this a DPI typical report? Is there?
This is-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, the EduClimber tracks our data. If a student receives, so that EduClimber data is data that we pull that's in-house, right? And the data that pulls in that we use NextPath now, it's very similar to EduClimber. It pulls that data in and it's something that can be housed with the student information that pulls in their assessment scores, a lot of different tools that we can use to analyze data internally. It's gonna tell us what's office managed, what's classroom managed, and bullying would always be an office managed piece. What would be reported to the state is when a suspension is given, right? And so if we suspend, go to pre-expulsion, restrain, or seclude a student, those are all the things that would go inside of Infinite Campus, and that pulls into the state report.
Okay,
Yeah.
so more so the intention of the question was, is there, would there be a potential benefit to parsing out or in a more detailed way? So that we would have clarity of like number of incidents, number of individuals involved from any direction. And verified or not, right? Because I think it would be important for us to know the number of reported and the number of verified. Just to kind of have a sense of like how we're doing with that.
I would agree. And we can, I mean, the verification piece of it is really on the administrator to go back and change that coding on it. And then the other part of that is though too, is that it's like. We're able to drill down into that level and look at whether there's people who are like repeatedly.
Right.
It's repeated behavior and those kind of things, what we dig into. And then look at that data.
Yes, because I'm assuming that already is existing, like, it's.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Ryan, thank you so much. I guess my question would be, because I love the relationship mapping piece and I feel like that should just be a common practice in every school district and every building. Is that something that you have an intention to repeat? So like if staff identified students who really could use more consistent like connection with staff, are you gonna then revisit that and make sure that that has happened? Do you have a kind of plan?
We haven't discussed, in full transparency, I wasn't there on Thursday, I was at the elementary school principals conference. I didn't participate in this or lead this, but Steve and Peggy did. This information comes back to the Guiding Coalition on Monday, actually, for us to look at and then develop a plan moving forward. But I could imagine that some type of continued like checking in around this would be beneficial, and I can't imagine that wouldn't be a plan that we develop as we talk about it, yeah.
It's always just, I love the idea of it. I feel like in my experience, not necessarily specific to the district, it's just been one of those things like it happens once.
Yeah.
And like, this is great.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily bullying related, but the conversations I've had with those adults that came back was like the structures and processes we have in place right now for new students. Because what we notice, obviously, right, our third graders, typically, if they've been in Parkway for 4 or 5 years now, have multiple positive relationships with adults. Those new students do not, right? And so like, what are the ways that we are really seeking out building those positive relationships for new students at Parkway? And that was like a conversation that's already getting started. That can lead into bullying, obviously, but I think it's gonna be important that we just keep revisiting for sure. Yeah.
And relationship is key,
Yeah.
regardless of anything else.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think relationships empower. The kids who have strong relationships and resilience in the schoolhouse are less disempowered, so they're less able to be bullied successfully, right? And that's one area of question I have for both of you. When I think about like the definition of bullying, and we talk about an imbalance of power, but I'm curious how you define an imbalance of power as you investigate a situation in elementary school with littles. You know, so I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are about that. Like, how do you go about investigating a complaint in terms of process? How do you look at that and think that through. How do you, are restorative practices a thing that work in elementary school? How do you? That's what I find myself thinking about, like when you think about little people, how do you even help them understand? I mean, I imagine some kids engage in behavior that as adults we look at and say, wow, that's a really bullying behavior, but they may not actually see it that way. There may be cultural differences, there may be, I'm curious to hear what you're thinking about as you process this stuff.
I mean, it's real, and at the elementary level, it's very tricky, and so
Yeah.
it's case by case, right? And we don't use the power imbalance necessarily, we use like the one-sidedness, and that's really an adult kind of determining what that one-sidedness looks like. So, the definition that Steve always goes through, is it repeated on purpose, hurtful, and one-sided? And so that's the language we use when we are looking at investigating those. What's really tricky in elementary is exactly what you said, Carla, it's hard to determine sometimes what is on purpose for a 5-year-old, right? Or a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, right? Like, and so really what it goes into it is restorative conversations, and they do work. They need more guidance, more help, more focused questions. Parents need to be even more involved, because oftentimes those questions then come home and that follow-up is so much more important.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, unfortunately, like a 5 and 6-year-old forgets, like they forget what they had for breakfast, but what happened the day before. And so as long as we're consistently talking to parents and making sure they're aware of what's happening as well, then the continued conversation helps build that.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to define what is repetitive. Is it 3 times in a minute? Is it 3 times in that week?
Right.
It's very case by case.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate this work. I appreciate the focus on it. I also find myself thinking about, and again, this is probably more like middle school related, how complaints of bullying can also constitute bullying. I have seen that happen where you can pick on a kid and target them for accusations of bullying. And so I'm curious always to know, and you have so few reports at Parkway, so I don't know if this is so much about you, but I'm always curious to know what the nature of the complaints of bullying are. Who are the cohorts that are being targeted? What's the nature of the bullying? Is it based on some identity or status? Is it because of your gender identity? Are kids being accused, bullied because of that? Is it because of race? I don't know. So I don't know if you see any patterns with so few complaints, but do you observe anything in terms of where you think there might be a problem to focus on?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. And it's probably a tribute to the classrooms that they're in, and they stay within those classrooms for 90% of their day, right? They're with the same 20 other humans. And they're continuously developing those positive relationships. It's a little easier to have a conversation with that classroom teacher when you're with that person for the entire day. So I don't see, and then that might be a reason why the numbers are low, right? Like as they happen, those classroom teachers on top, like because they're with them so often, right? And they're able to build those relationships a little easier for them. So I don't notice that. I honestly couldn't recall the 7 that are in there right now. But no, I don't see a pattern.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, any visitors online who wish to ask Mr. Krager any questions? Or have comments?
Nothing yet, but if they want to comment, they can type it in.
Yep, anyone, visitors here who wishes to say anything? Okay, Anna, anyone else?
I just want to let you know, in their work around kindness, in the upcoming Our Schools, Our Stories that goes out to parents to our community. I had an opportunity to talk with some students today about what they do to show kindness at Parkway. And there's some really great responses, so make sure you check it out, because some of them are very insightful responses and very astute, and I can see an opportunity for leadership, and particularly with my conversation with some 3rd graders today. So yes, so check it out. They had some good advice, and I'll be having some of those same questions and focuses with the Glen Hill students in our second issue of our family communication.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Krager.
Thanks.
If you want to go, oh,
I think it's okay. Michelle Sartes, 2525 North Branch Line Road, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53209. Can we get copies of what you're sending home to families? Because I know we asked for that, like what word is, things like that, because I think that really helps us with the kids, because sometimes they come off of that bus. And it's, you know, this happened, that happened, this kid looked at me, this and everything. And it would be really nice to know how you guys handle the words of the month, or I know we talked about that at one time, but I'll be happy to be the person to get it. We can send it out to the rest of the team from school age group, but I think that would be something I would love to see our K4 group start off with and build on the same words and everything.
Great idea.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kramer.
you all.
Happy birthday to you, child.
Thank you all.
The whole
Have a
way
good
from
night.
home.
This would be the list to. Can we put it on?
Mr. Williams, welcome.
Hello.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
All right. Well, I can't present because I got the update and it won't let me mirror to the.
Do you want to share with me, and you want me to present? Technology.
Technology.
I always love it when the updates spike out, you're gonna need to use what you're supposed to. do. Speak that up.
Supposed to make it better.
Bye.
Bye, Ryan.
So I use a different format too. I'm sorry.
We've made each other a promise not to apologize for things. You can join us in that agreement.
I learned to apologize all the time through my wives. But, okay, so just in the sake of time, so one thing and one avenue, avenue that we're using to, get our message out about bullying is through our morning announcements. So, AP Williams and, a group of students, every Tuesday and Thursday will highlight something different around bullying. So on October 7th, they introduced that it was, National Bullying Prevention Month, and they talked about kindness is cool, and bullying has no place here. As we move on October 9th, they focus on bullying is just more than teasing. It's when someone repeatedly hurts, threatens, or excludes another person on purpose and is targeting is one side. If you see bullying, don't just stay silent, speak up or report it to a trusted adult. Together, we can stop bullying before it starts. So that's what we're gonna talk about tomorrow. As we move on, October 14th, we're gonna talk about being an upstate. So not just being a bystander and watching bullying happen, but taking action and speaking up and showing support and getting help to stop the bullying from occurring.
I think you heard that. I love that. Obviously.
Yeah, shout out to AP and the SST team. They came up with these different terms. So also on the 16th, we're gonna be talking about think before you post, so especially around social media and cell phones. You just want to make sure that kids are thinking before they post, because it does not go away just because you delete it. It does live, and it can be screenshotted, it can be shared, it can be reposted, and we just want to make sure that online bullying is being addressed as well, even though it may not happen at school. The effects and ramifications of it does creep into the school at times. So
Yeah.
also making sure that we are respectful and using technology to uplift one another and not tear each other down. On the 20th, we're going to be talking about you are important and you are valued. So making sure that kids know that they matter. So some self-worth talk and making sure that they're not alone in this fight against bullying. On the 23rd, they'll be talking about student voices lead the way. So bullying prevention isn't just a school rule, it should be a student rule. Each one of you has the power to set the tone by showing respect and kindness every single day. They want to, and we want to build a school culture we all want to be a part of. So after that is our bullying prevention spirit. So each day you can see that we have a full week well, Spirit Week on different things and different fun activities that our kids would be a part of. So on Monday, they were wearing PJs and it's put bullying to bed. Day on the 28th, we have Team Up Against Bullying. Show your team spirit. We're your favorite team. We're sports your first jersey t-shirt on Wednesday, and this is a short week because we don't have school on the 31st. But on Wednesday, it's Unity Day, and they stand united for kindness, acceptance, and inclusion, and wear orange. And then on Thursday, the 30th, is wear your school spirit gear and colors to show that we are united. So standing stronger together. And then we have some Spirit Week assemblies that week as well. So just making a pledge to call out bullying and stinking thinking. So we want to talk to all of our 4th and 5th graders on Monday, our 6th graders on Tuesday, our 7th graders on Wednesday, and our 8th graders they'll wrap it up on that Thursday.
What is thinking? Another
Stinking-
phrase I haven't heard.
Okay, so stinking thinking is negative, unproductive thinking around anything. We actually use that as one of our norms in our teacher meetings today. So
I
we just
know that.
want to be positive and only add things that are beneficial to
Yeah.
the growing of our. Next, we have some guided practice on the 28th with AP and the students, or I'm sorry, guided practice gratitude on the 28th. Find someone, think of one person that makes a difference in your life, say thank you to them and make them feel happier. This is one area of growth for myself. So I've been trying to show gratitude to people in my life. And so it's not just something that I do, so I know that if I need to work on it, kids need to work on it. And then on the 30th, we have our commitment, our commitment continues. That's the wrap up bullying prevention month. Let's remember bullying prevention doesn't stop here. It happens every day, every month, and every year. And it can't just die in October, kind of like what we say about Black History Month or Latinx or Latin History Month. It can't just live in that month. It has to live throughout the entire year. We want to see bullying. We want to see a cease to bullying, and we want to make sure that our kids are safe, included, and respected. So we also launched second step lessons for our teachers and for our students. So this is something that we spoke about with our staff the Wednesday before last, or no, I'm sorry, last Wednesday. Because today is last Wednesday, and they all of these lessons are specifically tailored around bullying. So for the entire, almost the first trimester, teachers will be giving lessons to students around bullying. And one thing that we notice is that we don't want our kids to forget what they learned last year. So what we're having each grade level do once they get to 5th grade is that they're going to have a chance to do the previous year's bullying lessons, but then also go through their grade level of lessons. So we didn't have a chance to do that with 3rd grade, but with 5th grade, they're doing the 4th grade lessons and the 5th grade lessons and so on and so forth. And then for our staff, we actually have a review of our bullying investigation SOP. They actually know where to go to find that bullying investigation SOP. And then we also had feedback from our launch. So last week was the first week where they actually gave the lesson around bullying in their resource class. And we just wanted to give feedback last week, Thursday, around how that was received by the students. And we also take care to in relationship mapping as well over at Glen Hills. And the feedback that we got was very strong. We did notice, just like Mr. Kreger, our 6th, 7th, and our 8th graders have a lot of connections with our staff. However, it's those 4th graders that need a lot more touch points. So how can we get our 5th grade teachers, our 6th grade teachers, 7th and 8th grade teachers to interact more with our 4th grade students, and also our new students? They need touch points. So what can we do for our new to our school students? So That's everything that we're doing at Glen Hills, because we know that this is like, it's a very serious issue, and this is something that we saw an uptick in last year. To answer your question, we saw that with students in sixth grade, that was an area that we noticed that a lot of we received a lot of our complaints around bullying in sixth grade, and they were targeted towards students who have a different choice of clothing.
Okay.
So how can I students who
I get it, if there's a privacy issue, then you don't.
I kind of don't, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I also want to give clarity, because students who wear tails or ears,
So they were targeted,
as
some ongoing.
yes. Any other questions?
Kate, your turn to go first.
Not really, kind of got out of the questions, this was because you heard, you heard what we asked, Mr. Carter, so, yeah.
Oh, just for our bullying investigation SOP, so Leon and I will go through that investigation. We'll ask questions, ask bystanders, ask witnesses, and then we'll make a decision off of all of that, if it's bullying or if it's not. If it's not bullying, we take a certain route. If it is bullying, then we go with something. One thing that we are noticing though is that we are getting more reports of bullying, but when we actually do the investigation, it's not. It's just a conflict.
I did actually think of a question, do you, Mr. Carter said that you don't at the younger age, do you use that, power imbalance as part of your determination?
Because we noticed that there is a power imbalance sometimes, and there's a lot of social capital with some of our students, and we noticed that right off the bat. So there we do use that power imbalance, because we also know that kids can be made to feel less than because of being bullied. So we don't want that, and once we identify that, if that's happening, then we know that that's.
Is that, so like, if you don't feel that there's truly a power imbalance, does that then mean it's not bullying?
Again, that's case by case.
Okay,
But-
that's what I wanted to know, because I know past practice when my son was here and having issues, if there wasn't a perceived power imbalance, it's not bullying, it's just not. So if you're not doing that anymore, I'm very happy.
It's very nuanced as well. So I would just say that sometimes it can be there, sometimes it can't.
Yeah.
But there's more that contributes to the bullying than just.
Right.
Is it impact also, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in law, we talk about eggshell victims. It kind of depends on the needs and strength of the target. Someone can be very vulnerable, and even though there might be perceived balance, if that person has internal vulnerabilities that students know about, it can make you an easy target for bullying. It might not look like bullying to someone else or towards someone else, but with a person who's particularly vulnerable in a particular way, it can be bullying, right? But like you said, it's very nuanced.
Yes, and we also have supports for the person that is bullied and the person that is bullying, because we know the person that is bullying needs support just as much as the person that's being bullied, so that they can change from the way.
Karen?
Alright, I do this all the time in my notes, I start taking notes, and that's why I try to ask a question, and I haven't.
Do you want me to come back to you?
So. I guess the only thing I would ask is and I think I got my answer from Katie, but like, when you go through that resolution and you make a determination, then. Realistically, there's concerned parents and students, so how are they made aware of the determination, and how is there like. A conversation that gets engaged in, so for instance, a student who you might not fully understand, because we do know that resilience is a really big piece of that consideration, right? And so if, for instance, the staff member just isn't as familiar with the student, maybe doesn't understand something. They just don't know, that would make that kid more vulnerable to fully understand. Is there another recounting of that, or is it kind of like, this has been our research, this is our outcome? This is why.
So we.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, so one thing that we do is that we have parents involved from the beginning, from the onset, so before we even question the students, we let parents know that we're going to question parents. And then, no matter if we decide to go, that is not bullying, or if it is, parents are made aware of our. So, that is tricky for teachers to be able to identify that. That's why we just want our teachers to let us know so that we can do the deeper dive and deeper, because that we know that teachers have so much to do. We don't want to put extra pressure. So it's really up to me and Leon to do deeper digging. We have the time to.
Sure. And then when the resolution is shared with the parents, is there an additional dialogue? I guess I would imagine sometimes that's an unfulfilling result for the parent, right?
It may be, but we've run into that, but we have really great conversations with our parents. So when we do handle those situations, we like a lot.
Yeah.
So it seems as though they just want clarity and making sure that their
Yeah.
kid is.
And it sounds like it's not just a here's your message.
No, it's a deeper conversation.
I appreciate you.
That's it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. This is really helpful. I love your programming for October. By the way,
Thank
really lifts me up to see that ahead of time, and it's good. We're catching up on everything as
No,
we
we know,
do very well.
we know that we have support.
Yeah,
We just want to make sure that we're being attentive to the needs of our parents, and we're being attentive to the needs of.
yeah. I'm curious. So, couple of just like technical questions. When you do your investigations, does everything get logged in EduClimber? Is that where information resides?
So everything is not logged into NextPad.
Or would I? Yeah. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but we keep documentation, and we make a note that if it is a reoccurring thing, or if this student is constantly being. If it's actual bullying, then yes, it is put into the NextPad, but if it's not, then we don't put it.
Okay, so but you have documentation somewhere to memorialize your investigation
Yes.
and your outcomes.
Yes, and then if a student does not feel comfortable sharing or identifying the bully, we also have our anonymous reporting form
Right.
that is sent, that can go through, that goes through our district.
Is that used much? I mean, like if I look at the numbers from 2023, 24, 24, 25, how many of those came through anonymously?
I wouldn't be able to say that off the top of my head, maybe 5, but
So not an instant, I mean, that's a good number.
so this year, we had 2 through.
Okay.
Anonymous reporting.
That's awesome. That's good that it's available. Do you have a sense of whether in the middle school, what the balance is of the source of complaints? Is it coming from students? Is it coming from caregivers? Is it coming from observers? You know, what's your sense of whether, say, a kid who's feeling bullied feels empowered or safe complaining, or are you getting it from third parties?
I would say that it is coming from the people that are actually being bullied, and they're reporting it to the teachers, and the teachers are reporting stuff.
Oh, okay. So that's great. I mean, that's a system that's working. If a person who feels bullied is able to make their own complaint, that makes me happy to
They
hear
have a
that.
connection with another that feels safe.
Yeah. And then the last question I had sitting here is, you talked about the SEL learning that's happening. Are teachers doing that as part of their regular class activities, or is that SEL staff coming in and?
So teachers are doing that inside of their resource class, but
Oh,
we also want to make sure that it's just not living in that resource class, so we're identifying ways that it can come to life in every class. That's the big degree.
Okay. I've got so many new words, upstander, speaking, thinking. I'm like, I'm ready to text people already with this. Thank you so much. Chris?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this comprehensive monthly put together, really amazing. Clearly students are engaged in various parts of it. Is there a leadership component at all? A student group that's helping at all?
So one thing that we spoke about last week, Thursday, is that we have we actually had a student, a sixth grade student, come up to a teacher and want to start a group that can get support around bullying and like help others identify and call out and name bullying. On top of that, we have an eighth grade teacher that wants to lead a charge for the student council of peer mediators. And we also actually have peer mediators currently going on in school with some of our eighth graders helping out with our fourth grade students. So that is something that is that we recognize, and we want to make sure that our students have a voice in that.
And then I just want to clarify a point, because it sounded a little cut and dry, and I pretty confident it's not. If you have an incident that doesn't end up in bullying, like a decision that bullying occurred and there's still a conflict, what would you do in that case?
Could you clarify that?
Sure, like okay, you have an incident and you determine it's not bullying, but the students still aren't getting along.
Oh, yeah, so we still have restorative
you.
conversations.
That was the
restorative
point that was
meetings.
missing, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
we.
And I knew you did that.
Oh, yeah, we do that
Okay.
daily.
I believe that. Thank you.
Teaching civility one day at a time.
Yeah, all the time. It never stops.
Just for clarity, your SST teams, so our school psychologists and our school counselors are working with the staff directly around the lessons that are planned and guiding them and supporting them
Yes, they
in the delivery of those
Yes, they
lessons.
are.
So they are very, I know that team works really closely with the development of teachers around how to do that best practice and offering support around that if they need it.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Anyone online who wishes to make a comment or have any questions for Mr. Williams?
And when you do that, I'm like, oh, maybe they don't know, now they need to quick type.
Yeah. Well, I post that question up then, anyone here?
It's Michelle again. Haven't moved, still over on Range Line. Did you get the bus?
Interesting
Oh, good
question.
question.
Because I mean, we have a very large group that comes off of the bus,
Oh,
9
yeah.
kids, oh yeah. And it seems that bus gives them time to talk about things. Sometimes it's wonderful and awesome, and sometimes they get off and they just have to. And we give them time to talk about things and to have a safe area to do that. But where is it with the school district? Where is, who's that support, or how do you guys handle bus situations?
So we do.
Yeah, just so you know, we're responsible for them to and from school. So until they arrive to you and get off that bus, it falls in our range.
With you guys?
So
Because I know, like, I'm sorry, like at Parkway with our younger kids, they can get written up from the bus.
Mhm.
Sometimes I gotta tell them, no, you need to write them up and let the parents know and to do this and everything, but I mean. And I would be really interested in getting some support suggestions like you had from what you do with the kids. So that we can also, just like I asked for Parkway, that we can follow through, because we do have a larger group coming to us.
So we do have a behavior expectations for the bus. I can share that with you. We also encourage our bus company and our bus drivers, if they have any concerns or they're facing any pushback, that they have the opportunity to write kids up, just like you tell them as well. So we do the same thing as well. But I would say that that's definitely an area of growth for our school.
So is that something like if we know that there was a big concern, or kids are saying, do you want us to communicate that with the principals at the schools? So that they know this is going on?
That would be helpful
Or something like
because
that?
I've ridden on the bus to make sure that any issues cease and desist. And after I ride the bus for a period of time, we don't have these issues. But we also want to make sure that our parents know that these issues are taking place. So if the communication, or line of communication between me or us and you can improve, I would say let's do it. So because we want to make sure our kids are safe on the bus.
Okay. Because I don't. There's a situation today, I am not 100% clear about that. there was a student and another student, somehow they broke a window.
Have not heard about this, but I would love to hear more about this level.
So let's talk about that
Yeah,
later.
for sure.
because Maybe that's not appropriate.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
don't- yeah,
just so
that-
you know that was there. And my last comment, I just want to give a shout out to both schools.
Mhm.
On how wonderful they were with the family situation, the support, the helpfulness that they gave us. And I really would like that to continue. And I think tonight was just a really nice way of adding more information for us to help be a stronger partnership with you guys. Because having the kids with us, it really helped that open communication, and we appreciated so much that open communication.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
On the topics of the bus, is there like a camera to record the bus to and from? Hopefully that gets you some, and then also there was a Spirit Day mentioned to bring orange. Is there something that the office will potentially give to students if they don't have or more likely forget to bring orange?
Yeah, that's something that we've discussed that, because it's not for a couple more weeks now, but yeah, we do definitely have orange items for the kids so they can partake. Celebration.
T-shirts, socks,
Something, yeah.
stuff.
It's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it
Yep.
is.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, and I dropped it. I think about that always with all of the dress up days. My kids always forgot to tell me about it. They'd go to school and they'd be like, everyone was in pajamas. I'm like, well, what'd you want me to do about it? I didn't know, you know what I mean? But I was like, but
So, yeah, hopefully we can get this out and put it on the parent square so that it can be informed in the know.
awesome. Anyone else? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Thanks for all the.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Oh. Actually. Let me print that out for you. Let's talk about what.
Chapter 4 of our agenda. Does anyone need a break or are we still going strong? Then that's good. Okay. Item 4A, policy updates.
All right. So, we had an opportunity during our, workshop to take a look at, the policy revisions for 34.2 that are attached to the agenda item tonight. It gives an overview of those policies. We had an opportunity to look at them in detail and you have access to them in draft form. The technical corrections that were made in the drafted form, you've had an opportunity to review, and I've had the opportunity to review those technical corrections, so I think we're in a good spot for technical corrections. In terms of policies, I know that we discussed a couple policies that there was some clarifications that I was charged with getting. So I just want to address policy 3432 and 4432. And those two policies are around employee sick time. One of the recommended ideas that the board had was to specifically include mental health. So appointments would be made for medical, dental, mental health, chiropractic, or other healthcare needs. The only recommendation from Neola, and from that, and just want to, kind of assert this with the group, is that other healthcare needs would potentially include mental health, but by including the new language, there might be a message that mental health is not a part of a person's other healthcare needs, right? Because you're mentioning it explicitly was a concern that they had. They suggested that it would be something where we would use other healthcare needs and then in parentheses behind that, say, including mental health. That was their revision to that they suggested.
Interesting, but they're okay with singling out chiropractic. It's so weird.
Yeah, I would think if we put in that in parentheses, it'd do chiropractic into the parentheses as well, and perhaps
Right.
come up with a third, because that makes sense.
Yeah, you could move chiropractic into parentheses as well. Right.
Potentially. And I don't know if chiropractic sits in a different category than, it's maybe other health needs, right? So.
Yeah.
But that was the suggestion that they provided. I don't know if you want to, we can maintain that, just always reminded that. Any changes we make that aren't a part of what they say, they
Right.
potentially recommend that we have legal counsel review. I don't think in this case I'd be concerned about legal counsel reviewing But I think it's more of a preference of the board.
I guess chiropractic is more of a surface category versus mental health, which is a health category. I'm okay with putting in parentheses, it's just weird. So what's the difference? But okay,
Okay.
are you guys okay?
It's in there one way or another.
It's
so-
in there one way or the other, if that's what they will.
Just, I feel like if it's in parentheses as an example, then we should have more than one example. Like that just from.
Yeah, I guess what,
Could we move the dental there too?
well, dental is
dental
still
and
cover
coverage.
insurance. I guess what I'm thinking is if this is what Neola says, then we have to use this language to have coverage. Right?
It would probably help to just include this. I mean, all you're saying is that other health needs include mental health. You're not necessarily saying that it's an example of, you're saying it includes it, right? So other
Just
health
to be
needs.
perfectly
include it,
clear.
Right, so that it just clarifies the point that you were concerned with.
Yeah,
Just making sure that staff in our buildings understand that they can utilize.
I did an extremely informal survey and concluded I was right, that a number of people did not think that mental health was included in other healthcare needs, which I wasn't sure that that's how. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so that was a clarification, so if you're okay with me making that slight adjustment, that would be an adjustment to what's already in Neola, we didn't make that move. Policy 5112, particularly number 3 in there, it was a question around how does a student with an IEP have a team override what was written there around the any student at the discretion of the principal in consultation with the first grade teacher, if the district determines that notwithstanding that the student has not completed 5-year kindergarten program, the student has demonstrated sufficient aptitude and all core competencies normally required kindergarten students in the district upon completion of the kindergarten program. Knowing that that is like potentially a rare case in which we might have a student with an IEP that needs a different, that may not be able to demonstrate core competencies, but is age appropriate to be moving into first grade. One of the things, that I think we talked about that night is the IEP, teams determine placement in that process under IDEA supersedes any local policy, so there's no. It's not necessary, like we would follow that IEP process and IDEA would cover that and supersede what's here.
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of what I thought, but it's good to have confirmation around that, so just to clarify that question.
And so it wouldn't need to be explicitly stated because it's just understood to be the case.
Yeah, and then if you are looking at, the. You know, the idea, also policy 5120. Also, assignment within the district says the principal shall assign students in his or her school to appropriate grades, classes, or groups. This action shall be based on consideration of the needs of the student as well as the administration of the school. So we're also covered by that in another policy. Okay.
Right, because needs of student.
Yeah.
Actual IEP.
Yep. The other area was looking at, wondering whether or not in C of that particular piece, the appeal of or denial of a waiver to move beyond. Kindergarten ends with the district administration, so an appeal can be made to the district administrator, and the question was, is there another level of appeal there? And the answer to that is they could file a formal complaint under the complaint policy, or they could file a complaint with the DPI. Right, so there are multiple avenues if there's family disagreement with the district administrator. Okay. All right, and then policy 74403. There was changing the language to uncrewed aircraft did not seem to be an issue. Much of the language. That's an easy question. Much of the language used in the policy comes from statute and industry language, and that's just why it ended up there,
Yeah,
right? And so
exactly.
as long as the concept is there. In terms of the WIAA component of it,
Right.
the recommendation was that we actually keep it there just in case, because the WIAA procedures are really clear and laid out. So that if there was gonna be, like, even if we were holding a non-WIAA event here, like a sporting event, and we had a film club here who wanted to use a drone. the policies are really, but what's in the WIA policy and serve as a really good guideline to follow. But so is there a recommendation just to leave that language in there? So I think I answered, and then, the other one on the placement component and the retention policy that you had is. Again, it's covered, like we were talking about in that second paragraph, it is there that determination can also be made. And the idea of any other contributing factors to academic performance would include the things other than just sole academic competencies.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. So I know those were the questions that we had. Is there anything else that I'm missing in the revisions?
Corin?
I don't think so.
I got nothing.
Okay,
Chris?
try to stay.
Katie?
notes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for answering all our questions and
Yeah.
helping us understand this.
So, the 34-2 policies have all been updated. I updated them as we kind of worked through some of those pieces. I will make that adjustment to that, including the mental health, so that would be the only deviation from what's already drafted here. And I made the change already to uncrewed aircraft and was gonna flip it back if I needed to, but it's there already.
So we don't have to approve the technical corrections, right? We don't.
No, I will approve them, but I bring them to you just to let you know what I'm ready.
Or we don't get a motion on that.
Yeah.
So all we need is if someone wishes to make a motion to approve these policy revisions. Again, if there's any policy, if any of you feel there's any policies we need to pull to have further substantive discussion on, we can do that right now.
I move to approve the 34-2 policy revision as attached. Well, along with the change of mental health.
Second.
So there's a motion by Chris Robinson to approve the 34-2 policy revisions as attached to the agenda and as revised per our discussion, second by Karen Cronwell. Any further discussion from board members? Anyone online or in the audience, any visitors wish to discuss this heady set of, this intense set of policies that I'm advising? Okay, no one online, hearing no further comment, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, our policies have been updated. That's a lot of hard work and well done, my friends. Thank you, Nana.
Thank you. A lot of heavy lift, and thank you for reading through all of the pieces and knowing it and being thoughtful.
Thanks for keeping us organized. Okay, on to item 5A, board legislative update. I suggested we discuss the transparency here. It's October. And so tax bills are gonna be coming out in December. I don't know if you saw, I emailed out some resources earlier today that help put some perspective on what's going on with voucher transparencies. And what I'm thinking about is that something we've talked about, that taxpayers don't receive really clear information on how local taxes are being funneled through public schools to private schools, either as voucher or charter payments or as expend costs and other costs that we cover. And I looked through some of these resources that I shared with you, and I did not realize that unless something has changed, Green Bay, I believe, is the only municipality in Wisconsin that has specifically adopted an ordinance putting voucher transparency on its tax bill that it sends out. There's some legislation in the work at the state level. I think Chris Larson and a couple other legislatures are trying to get something going, but I think there's a lot of resistance to it. It tends to be linked to decoupling, right? People want to decouple as opposed to talk about voucher transparency, right? So I was looking at some WASB documentation, and what threw itself at me is that what was it that they said? Local taxpayers fund more than 50% of basic public school costs. That's not including referendum money that's added on. So local taxpayers are funding a huge amount of public education. And this is what threw itself at me. Total payments under the choice and charter programs will increase in this next biennial cycle by approximately like $274 million general purpose revenue. Of that amount, 169 million will be funded through an aid reduction to pupil school districts of residence, right? So we look like we're getting state aid, but it's being pulled back to cover vouchers, and local taxpayers are covering a significant portion of voucher expenses, so. I don't know how everyone feels about it, but I think we should talk about it, about whether we wanna do something, engage in some activity to try to push through. Getting voucher numbers onto the Glendale and possibly the River Hills taxes. What are your thoughts on that? Chris?
I had gone to the WASB meeting and, they were saying there that legislation, they did not have high hopes for it.
Right.
Passing it all, so if anything were to be done, it would, I think, have to be at the local level.
Okay,
And, yeah, to be able to put it on tax bills, I think that's something I would certainly support.
what I understand is that some communities, they're successfully getting an insert, but it's not the same. Right, I mean, I would probably throw away the insert. Yeah, it really needs to be in the tax bill, so. Right, so if we wanna get that transparency, it's gonna have to be at Glendale and River Hills. And I'm not sure. We have a couple months, right, but we wanna move as quickly as we can, we're coming up in our budget cycle, I don't know if it involves. I think about like two things we could do, we could discuss a resolution that the school board adopts and that we then send. To Glendale and to River Hills. Advocating and asking them to include a line, and then we'd have to figure out with Michelle what that number is. Is it last year's number? Is it an estimate of? You know what I mean? Like, we would have to figure out some of that.
Yeah, we will have that number. When we adopt the budget, when we certify the levy to the municipalities, they may have. Like, what is that portion of for River Hills with those vouchers? I don't know. We would have to get that data.
Right.
Yeah, we have it combined. I don't think we receive it broken out
Oh,
between the two municipalities.
is that a big ask?
I can ask the DPI how they do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
I think it's a question.
Yes.
Worth asking.
Mhm.
Yeah, to see if they can
Yeah.
work that out. We can't be the only district that has in
Right.
multiple municipalities.
What I envision is some sort of advocacy to our local municipalities from us, right, asking.
Do we want to touch base with Maple and Indian Hill if we're trying to get referrals to do it, since they would also.
I can certainly. I mean, I don't know if you wanna reach out for residential equipment and we can take a look at it, us doing it that way, otherwise I would mention it to the superintendent as well.
Higher fidelity if you do it. The likelihood of me dropping the ball is higher. If you put it on your to-do list, it's more.
I can ask the question and see, like, if he could just, maybe just get a feel for how his board might feel about having this as well.
Right, so we could lead the way,
Right,
you know.
sure.
I
But
saw
if we're asking for one ward and they have the rest of them.
Oh, that's
it's
right,
to
that's
get
right.
involved.
Yeah. So are you guys interested in that kind of, I mean, it's basic advocacy. I don't think it would be hard. It would just be asking. In Glendale, it'd be asking the city council to adopt. We'd have to I could follow up with Green Bay and see what that looked like there. Whether they passed an ordinance or, I don't know how they did it. I know the technicality of it. But if you're interested in that, probably I would draft a resolution that could set forth our position and our ask. And then we could discuss it in the next meeting or two.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's important for taxpayers to know this. I mean, this is how their money is being spent. And they have the right to ask questions, and I think tax bills are something you pay attention to, or, you do when something changes. And understanding why it's changing is important, right?
Yep, especially when we might have referendum that asks coming up. To understand what the money's supporting. And what we're required to do with it. Cause I feel like there's so much obfuscating from the state level about where public school money is going, with
For a
vouchers.
public taxpayer.
Exactly. So, yeah, okay, so if it's not a wasted effort, I'll start hunting around. Anna, you could follow up with.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the other, and I guess maybe I can ask, I can also talk to Nicolay as well.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if all partner schools joined in an effort to get our municipalities to get some transparency on there. And you know, the other thing that would happen if we built these lines in is, I mean, I don't know, you know, like on a Glendale bill, I get both the Nicolay levy
Mhm.
and the Glendale-River Hills levy.
Mhm.
And then also hypothetically, there would be two more lines then. One that shows Nicolay spending to private schools. And another one that shows Glendale-River Hills spending to private schools.
Mhm.
And that's like, that would be great information.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really helpful because it seems like it's a giant surprise to the state people every time we get stuff. So
Yeah.
if we can say, look at your tax bill, there's your number, like that would be really helpful.
Great. Okay, all right, then I will go forth and start doing some legwork. And it seems like that would be a win. We could make that happen this year. With so much swirling around state budgets. Do you think WASB has any resources around local advocacy for this transparency stuff?
I think they might.
Okay, I'll
I-
look at the
I-
website,
Do you wanna have?
or if you feel like it, I'll
Okay.
take whatever we can find.
I'll see what I can find.
Okay.
I'll also check the public education network.
Oh, okay.
Expand this one.
Yeah, I had a link to them in the resources I shared. They have like a really active.
Oh, so you're aware
webpage.
of that
Yeah.
one then?
They have a
Alright.
toolkit.
I'll just look at what's the,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any comments from audience or visitors online? Okay. Move on to 6A, 10-year capital maintenance plan.
Wait,
Oh, yes.
I also had, so do you want me to do a little report on the WASB meeting?
Yes, please. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Continuing with legislative, I'm just gonna tell you the bills that are kind of circulating, and then the one that WASB thinks would really pass. There are proposals in the works for the equivalent of an Act 20 for math. Dual enrollment incentives, teacher bill of rights, and incentives for school consolidations and shared services. Also, increase the general aid to match the change of inflation rate, healthy school meals for all, and then the creative property tax line for choice charter schools. WASB thought those were pretty much performative and that there would be the bipartisan support for any of them to pass. The one that they think might pass is the one for retirees to come back. To return to work without suspending their annuities. And here's why: they said no one testified against it, that there's bipartisan support, and that no group has registered any opposition. At that meeting, something may have changed, I didn't see it, if it did, it had been pulled because of a proposed amendment coming, but we didn't have any information on what that is, but they're still hopeful that that one, will pass. Okay, I did read the last legislative update and it also said something about a proposal for sexual abuse training K4 through 12th grade that people were looking at that might be important to follow as looking at our health stuff. And then Carla Pennington Haas earned, this says level 3, for, the Wisconsin Association of School Boards awarded her for a high level of commitment to Wisconsin public school students by participating in professional development. So, wow, there were very few people earning this level. Gosh, thank you, Liz. You're welcome.
You could have used it for your water blada. All right. Thank you, Chris. Some interesting stuff.
This is a side note, if the annuity, if that bill would pass to allow retirees, it also would open the door for retirees to be able to run for elected office too, because their annuity conflict with being in the legislative office, right? So there's an incentive all around, like.
Wow.
We're getting teacher shortage and educator shortage, so being able to have people come back who are highly qualified within our schools to work
Yes.
would be fantastic news for us. And then also, like, I think there's also this added bonus of maybe potentially finding meaningful people who can run as elected officials.
I'm astonished that that's a conflict that has been addressed before.
What's the nature of the conflict?
Well, as a state elected official, you're part of the WRS system. And so if you're collecting an annuity from the WRS, you can't,
Got it.
double dip.
That's kind of crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's something I had not thought about that came up in one of my legislative meetings, which covered everything Chris got covered.
So Florida passed a long time ago now, a similar piece for their employees, retired employees to come back, and it was a profound help.
Yeah.
For being able to have trained educators, and also a profound help for educators who maybe, needed an extra way to earn something and could use a skill set they had.
Right.
Right, well, part of the conversation is, as somebody who's retired, maybe still wants the ability to work, like you're having people who are serving at a quick trip down the street versus.
Right.
Inserting themselves as highly trained educators and supporting the work that's being done in schools with the wisdom and knowledge that they have, so it does open the door to that. Which, when you think about mentoring, building capacity of new teachers, all those kind of things, there's a lot of benefits that could come with that.
And Wesley would certainly appreciate any advocacy.
Yeah, I have an advocacy template letter too, I can share with the board in my weekly board update.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, so it's just like a template letter that if you wanted to send off, it would give you some talking points within it that you could adjust to your liking.
For legislation like this that's in the works, do you send it to the committee that's considering it, or do you just stick with does WASB tend to suggest we stick with our own legislators?
I have a list of who to send it to.
Oh, okay, great.
Anything that fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, moving on to the 10-year capital plan.
Right, so a lot of information here. So just kind of taking a look at the information that we have. So the recommended maintenance areas that I'm presenting tonight and associated budgets in both the summary and detailed report that are attached to this agenda item were established with the facilities condition assessment that was conducted during the 22-23 school year by Findorf and Plunkett Ridge Architects, GDRH. The process included a review of available existing floor plans, walkthrough of all the district buildings. And the Findorf and PRA team also reviewed an earlier study that was done in 2021 by Performance Services, Inc. And they went and updated some of those areas. The Performance Services report is, I'll kind of show you, goes a little bit more into detail around some of like our HVAC and inner working systems that I don't know where completely delved into when the other more recent study was done. The plan reflects the costing that's associated with 2023 and does not factor in inflation, which we probably estimate somewhere between 5 and 10%, right? So it also is, I think, needs to be noted that, I've marked some areas that Michelle and I have addressed in this past year and sort of like noted that or things that are currently in progress that we are addressing within that plan. And then really to take a note too, that food service, our pool, athletics and other specialty reviews are not done with the study. So looking at the condition of our fields, looking at the condition of our kitchen equipment, those kind of activities, which would explain last year us having to fix the kitchen hood and not knowing that there was an issue there until it was broken. Right, so just there's some pieces of this that are good information for us to begin to look at an estimate, but maybe not the complete picture and story on that. The priority levels that are indicated in the report is explained here. So condition would be good, good to fair, fair, fair to poor or poor. And poor would indicate any like major immediate needs. Fair to poor would be something that is past the expected service life that it should be at. Fair would be that they're looking at like something that probably needs to be looked at within the next 5 years. Or need like that it's nearing its expected service life. Good to fair would be no major needs anticipated within the next 10 years, and good would be no major, work that needs to be done in the next 15 years, okay? Categories within the report include site, which is sort of looking at sort of the, I think what it was also referred to, Michelle, is it civil? Civil areas where that we're looking at like grading. So you're looking at like the grading and the landscaping outside, and you're looking at some of the, like the civil engineering components of our building spaces. Exterior would be material condition and energy efficiency, interior material condition, circulation and wayfinding for students. Accessibility and safety and security were two areas that the board had requested that they look at specifically in the 2023 study. So there's some direct attention that's given to that to look at where we're sitting with those areas. So there's some overall ratings that were given. So for Parkway Elementary School, the site, which again is sort of that outside area, was rated as fair. So looking at like, there might be some things within the next 5 years that need to be worked on within that space, but likely not something that needs to be immediate. Same with the exterior. The interior was marked as good to fair, and the systems were marked as good to fair. Right? Accessibility was rated to be poor, and that is primarily due to some of the outside work around, like if you look at the lots there. And also within the hallways, like some areas I can point to in accessibility areas, like you have bars where the carpet breaks that make it difficult to transition students who might be in a wheelchair. So there's some areas that are not really truly accessible, but it's a lot of the cracking within the lot area and the entrances.
Handles on doors.
Handles on doors, bathroom spaces.
Doors, yeah.
Yep, you got it. Safety and security is rated as fair. That kind of surprises me. I think from my general assessment, Michelle's general assessment, when we think about school safety, you have a foyer door that leads right into there's not a separate buzz-in, like at least here at Glen Hills, you have an entry.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's student travel in it, but then you're looking at what I would consider to be not a very secure entrance, so. I mean, does the buzzer system work? Yes. Is it an ideal situation in terms of school safety? Probably not, right? So I think those are things that, as we look at prioritizing potentially safety and accessibility, those would be two areas that I think need really a lot of work in that building. The Glen Hills School ranking, most of the items and site, interior and systems were all rated as fair, and the exterior is rated fair to poor, right? So definitely if you walk around the exterior of the building, a lot of crumbling of those areas. Accessibility also fair. Accessibility to playground space is an issue. Accessibility to the entrances in terms of sidewalk cracking and the damage that exists in all of the rampings that go up. Our big work, our bathrooms. We have one elevator, which creates some accessibility, but there's also other areas that make it challenging to go out. Just the thresholds on the doors are not necessarily wheelchair friendly on the outer areas. Good Hopes ranking, site fair, exterior fair to poor, interior fair to poor, systems good to fair. So it's maybe some of their internal systems. And then accessibility would be fair to poor there as well. And I think if you walk around the site, it's the same thing with some of the entryways and some of the sidewalks leading up to. Safety and security is very similar to Parkway, right? Right now it's not housed as a school, but you have the daycare and you've got people operating to the space. So those are kind of the general overview reports of what's going on. And I'll stop there and ask if there are any questions, because there's a lot of information attached to this agenda item, and I want to make sure I capture any questions that you might have.
So with regards to Good Hope, I know we did some roof work and things like is that by river connect cars? No. You're gonna be like here. Okay. Are there things that, and you had noted that maybe in the future, in the next few minutes, you're gonna be touching on things that we've already done. Are they things that would significantly shift some of these ratings at this point?
I don't think so.
They're just survival items, aren't they?
Yeah, and then some of the items that we've, you know, had to spend money on and are now continuing to spend money on are immediate needs that have come from failure of equipment, or also thinking about, like, for example, the flooding that took place is a large expense to us, and, you know, granted, there's some funding sources around that, but it also is, you know, those kinds of more immediate needs that are coming out for us, and like taking a look at how we address those. Okay, yep. So I will touch on those when I go through the detail. I attached the two different facility studies. I do want to look at the summary. Which is. And that's the detail. There. It's very tiny, so I'm gonna have to put my light. So I can see what I'm talking about. So, district-wide maintenance, as we're looking at the 0 to 2 level, and you can see they've broken down the levels here in terms of level 2, 1, 2, or 3, and kind of what those total costs would be. So level 1 would be something that likely should be addressed within 0 to 1 year or 2 years. We're already 2 years past when this happened, so some of these things have not been currently addressed, right? The level 3 to 5 years, the 6 to 10 years, and then gives you a breakdown of the total cost, and the total cost of recommendations, and then, below that breaks it down what category it's sitting. Is it structural, plumbing, interior, and accessibility? So as you take a look at the total cost over here, you're looking at $42,168,100 in total. Like, if we're to totally look at those things that need to be repaired or maintained within our buildings, that is the total that they came up with in 2023 without factoring any kind of inflationary rate.
That's a status quo number, basically, right? Other than accessibility improvements. Is that like,
You mean just keeping things
Yeah.
updated?
this is
Yeah.
just like keeping our buildings alive?
Yeah, and like
Not
it would
better.
be, and I don't know that this would necessarily move into the idea of like changing accessibility into something that would be, it would be more like, let's repair the sidewalk and make sure that kids can enter, right?
Right.
In a safer manner and more accessible. Just because if we start to actually change configuration of the building, it's going to trigger different codes that we're gonna have to meet, and then that would drive up the cost on renovations. So it's maintaining what exists here in terms of accessibility to make it better. An example of that would be the pool lift that we're working to replace right now is an existing pool lift, and because it was inoperable, we have to replace it because it was already existing in site, right? Good Hope School, primary pieces or high-end costs would be both the civil, so that would be like exterior components. And then also, the interior components, that would be the most amount of work. At Parkway Elementary, you see interior again and exterior, come with a fairly high price tag, as well as that site development, which gets into some of the front drive. If you walk around in there, when I walk kids to dismissal at the end of the day, like there's, like it's sinking down in, right? So there's like major structural work that needs to happen out there with the drainage system. Glen Hills, safety and security, is a hefty price tag in terms of, making sure that all of those pieces are addressed within the building. And then also taking a look at the interior, electrical. HVAC is sitting up there, site work is sitting up there, so.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I look at this level 1, which is a 0 to 2 year plan, right?
Yep.
This was in May of 23, so now we're in May of 25. How much of this 20 million have we actually spent? Or 33 million?
You want to talk a little bit about that, Michelle?
If this is not the right time to ask it, but that's just what immediately throws itself at me.
I would say not very much.
Yeah, we just haven't.
Yeah, very minimal.
Yeah.
I do have a chart of what we spent in the
Oh,
last
okay.
year, but.
Yeah, if you want to look at that now.
It's totally up to you, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious, because I was like, I don't remember in budget seeing that we've spent $20 million at
No.
Glen Hills on essential
Well, no, ours,
level one
that would be
renovations.
more than our entire budget.
I know, but that's,
Every year.
that's like, we're
We
just
have, we
basically,
have children to educate, right?
we're just basically triaging to
Yes.
keep the buildings alive.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a very accurate statement.
No, I don't want to take you out of order. I just,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so if you go into the facility study detail. This is by building and it really sort of drills down to exactly what they're seeing and some of their notes that are there and sort of what category they sit in. So as you're, kind of looking at that, there's the costing that sits in there, the units or total cost that needs to be there. And the recommendation and the level of need. So when you look at some of that high priority area at Good Hope, you see, site earthworks, so that has a lot to do with, drainage and locations around the perimeter. The southwest vestibule stone wall and roof damage that exists. North vestibules have heavy water and damaged ceilings. Workroom ceilings are in poor condition. And then they're also looking at a large crack in the wall below the window in the community room. And the gym flooring is also an area of work that needs to happen that was listed as high priority. As well as the pedestrian paving and then the site development, so thinking about the fencing and asphalt pavement. And then the walk-through exhaust fans in terms of HVAC. So if we think about those top number one priorities that are sitting there, out of those priorities, those are not anything that we've addressed at Good Hope, since this study was done, that I'm aware of. And that would be doing kind of a historical look to, used to be here prior to Michelle and I stepping into this work. We have done some safety and security, we're working on some safety security work over there with doors. We replaced the water here after the flood. Anything else? Some electrical work. That are more safety structural. Things that needed to be taken care of.
Otherwise, it's just maintenance as things needed, damage items need to be fixed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't know what year those boilers were replaced up there. There's new boilers up there.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming with the good rating that it, had, maybe it was before the study.
Do you happen to know?
They're about 3
ago?
years old.
3 years old, okay.
Right now.
Yeah.
Lived experience here.
Yeah, so 3-year-old boiler, so that kind of sits right near that time frame that this was, right before this was done. There was a large expense on the boilers. Parkway Elementary, if we're looking at some of the high priority areas that they looked at were the, casework is aged and damaged. That means like all the storage in areas in classrooms, and that is something that we have not replaced and are sort of living with at this point. The interior vestibule doors are aged and worn. So that interior door area, many of the doors are damaged, chipped, and or peeling. They also need, the entry into the door themselves. The health room carpeting area is unsanitary for room usage. That actually, I did not mark that in here. That is something we have asked Kevin to price out and to take a look at, because having a carpeted space in an area where kids are sick. And
Right.
frequently, I mean, kids that
Blood.
don't necessarily have.
Right. They don't target.
They don't end up in the bathrooms quickly, so like, it is very unsanitary to have it
Yes.
in there, and it poses some health concerns, and so. Due to that, and it seems like something that would be like replacing flooring in there is something that we can probably tackle, so we have asked Kevin to price that out and look at making that adjustment. So we can at least get that area a little bit more sanitary. In addition to that, the vestibule flooring is damaged and in poor condition, as you're coming in. The art room floor is cracking and showing wear. Kevin has indicated, even as this is the priority one, that it is sealed though, so it's showing where, but they have been able to seal the top of it, so at least it's, you know, they're creating as smooth of a surface as they can there. The plumbing, there's a hairline crack that was occurring in one of the, boys' bathroom. Kevin was able to work on this past summer and working on getting that repaired. There's still a very fine hairline crack, but all of the plumbing issues around it have been addressed, and so it's.
Is it on the inlines or the outlines?
The hairline crack?
Yeah.
I think it's on the actual urinal, like up at the top of the urinal, and it was making the urinal plumbing inoperable in that space, so that urinal was not appropriately flushing, so that has now been fixed, so like, that is going to greatly improve the use of it, so it's not capped off, so it creates more space for, you know, our boys to go.
Oh, so it was inoperable.
It was
Not
inoperable.
capped off.
Yep. So that's back up and running, which is good. There's a gym clock on the south wall, it doesn't have a cage on it, cage has been ordered for that and will be installed. And taking a look at, the hole in the slab behind the north canopy, again, that's some of that exterior work and asphalt work. And then the rest of that is asphalt drainage and asphalt pavement on the west side of the building. So it's a lot of the pavement and structure around the outside of the building. And, we do work to have the parking lots resurfaced to try to hold them, like we seal them. It makes them look nicer. It also holds the concrete as best that we possibly can. So it's kind of a, I don't know, a Band-Aid.
It's a stopgap.
It's a stopgap on it, but there are deeper repairs that need to happen to actually level that. In addition to that, the PSI report indicated that there, was, distribution pumps and more, better pumps have been used. We've looked at the upper air conditioner and we've also looked at the heating unit. We did have some pumps replaced due to the results of what over there, so there's some improvements that have been made there. And then exhaust fans, getting some of those. I know we talked about that. Kevin has priced that out, so we'll kind of take a look at where we sit budget wise in terms of being able to address that. And then more, the office is cold in the winter. There's windows everywhere. It's freezing in there in the winter. Anyone who goes over there can attest to that. And then also the pneumatic controls are worn and multiple breaker trips to the electrical. At Glen Hills, the base of exterior walls is showing effervescence, mostly on the north side of the building. This is an area of concern on our exterior walls that we're noticing. And
Remember that from our walkthrough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doors 9 and 10 on the west side had old wooden handles, and the ground is steeply sloped. So they're would be on that side of the building. There's significant damage to the southeast corner soffit, and also signs of drainage issues, that are causing discoloration of the brick face in some areas. The taller white windows have old inefficient wood frames and single pane glass. They are worn and quite frankly dangerous. We had a student, you know, bump one out and shatter glass and it came out the backside. Because it's just single pane glass, so if it, you know, if an instrument or something knocks into it, there's potential breakage. So it poses kind of a risk there. The exterior doors and frames are old, damaged and rusting. The weather canopies on the north side were really damaged with visible holes and dents. I just asked the custodians to take them down because they're decorative. They don't serve necessarily a purpose, so rather than being worn. The server room on the main floor was also an area that we had repaired, so we could move some of the technology work that we needed to into a safe spot and to shore up some of our technology pieces. So that server room has been, the leaking on the ceiling has been addressed as well as the flooring.
That's right.
Right. A lot of work on site earthwork in our storm sewer. So Brandon has had somebody come in and they're looking at our drain tiles, and there's some drain tile replacement and upgrades that we're going to be making on the lower level to hopefully help with some of the water coming into the building that also impacted us during the flooding as well. And then we had floor finishes. So the health room and the waiting office our finishes are in poor condition. The recreational equipment, so The replacement lift has been ordered and we're waiting for installment in the pool area. Interior doors, we have a repair order in for some of those interior doors to replace hardware. And then we have 2 frames that have been replaced today at this point in time. So we took kind of those that were in the worst condition and we made sure that we're replacing them slowly. Fittings, so they have in here the locker rooms and benches are in poor shape. So that's kind of where we stand. So again, bathrooms throughout the buildings have finishes in poor conditions. They show damage, water damage on the ceiling. Commentary about the ball field being overgrown and not level. They may not be level, but we have an asking our lawn care company to treat those. In addition to that, some benches and seating areas, I asked the custodians to remove that were really worn and in poor condition. Our tennis courts were refinished this past summer, and so I just went on a walk today and then checked them out. They look really good, and they have all the pickleball markings in there too, which is helpful for our PE classes and it gives a lot of community use as well. And then parking lots again, and then also the asphalt connection to the neighborhood on the north side has no integral drainage and is an icing concern. So on the back part of the playground where you go up into the neighborhood, there's not good drainage, so that does get wet and it freezes over with ice. We have a lot of kids who come through that neighborhood, so we're out there, we salt it, and we do that, but there is some danger if that exists there because of the lack of drainage. And then also, the AHU in the pool, I believe we did replace some of that electrical unit in the pool. I did not mark that on there, but we have done that work because it was failing and was, we need all those pumps to be running appropriately for the pool to be safe for people to swim in. And then, some electrical work as well, replacing the existing fluorescent lighting with new LED, fixtures. So they have LED lighting, I believe, at Good Hope. Maybe. So you're replacing them slowly. Parkway, I think, is done. This building does not have LED lighting, which means we have to order ballot and do all of the bulb replacements. And so there's some concern around energy efficiency with that type of lighting system. So it's kind of an overview of sort of the high end costs.
It's exhausted.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say,
Thinking about it.
yeah, as I sit there and I look at some of the things that we were able to do, one of the things in the report was a section of roofing. So the section of roofing that sits in front of Glendale's was leaking. That was what was leaking into the server room. So we replaced the one section of roof that hadn't been taken care of before. So that has been done. We replaced the structural pieces for the hood in the kitchen to make the kitchen operable again for serving food to students, because we had a portion of last year at the start of the year we could not. We had to have food delivered in from one of our partner districts. So there's been some things that have creeped up on us that have been immediate, like for lack of better terms, immediate needs. But looking at some of the long range needs, it's you're sort of chasing what's gonna break the soonest and next is really kind of where we're at when we sit down and we look at sort of the facilities work that needs to be done. And so I know, there were discussions in place prior to me coming into this role about, potential capital needs, and those needs still exist. And I think this is a demonstration of what is needed to put our schools back in good condition. And sort of thinking about what our next steps are going to be as a community to begin to address that.
Do you know yet what you are gonna budget for 25-26 to cover costs of expected repairs for this season?
Yeah, I think it's something, yeah, I can think.
Yeah.
So in 24-25, you'll see the different categories that we do were broken out. The costs that we had, server room upgrades, $3,585, the kitchen hood, $16,460, maintenance, just multiple things in that maintenance grouping, issues that come up. And then some routine maintenance as well, 170,953. The parking lot resurfacing last year, 70,817, and the roofing. That Anna mentioned, 81,779, so that was a total of 343,594. This year, budget and planned expenditures, we have the technology upgrades, the E-rate project, the technology infrastructure, 122,276. Maintenance, general maintenance, 175,000. And then we did have the air compressor work. It was mentioned, 41,177. The lift for the pool area, 47,500. And then the floor refinishing the gym floors, 28,921. And then, so the total budget and planned expenditures this year, 414,874. Some of those expenditures last year were not planned for, as Anna said, so we're not budgeting specifically the same dollar. But we do have a budget there. And then current known costs, I'm sorry, I should have a heading, the flood. The next, last two items of the flooding. Currently, the known costs that we have received invoices for, or quotes, 40,975. The insurance company, the adjuster anticipates we're gonna hit the full 150,000.
Is that our deductible?
Yeah. Or no, that's our coverage.
Oh.
The deductible, I believe, is like 5,000.
Oh,
It's not.
The deductible actually reason.
so.
Yeah.
Anything over 150 we pay for.
Well, I think we're applying for FEMA.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
apply for.
Isn't covered by insurance.
Correct.
Over
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a limited
Right.
coverage.
One of the one cost you still unknown is, the cleanup. What does that cost? I don't have that yet. So anticipating that we'll reach that 150,000.
So I think, some of the proactive steps that Michelle and I have been doing is working in alignment with our lead custodians here to look at like coming up with the scheduled maintenance plan and looking at like when are all of the scheduled orders, like when does the salt come in, when does this come in, so we can look at sort of that monthly budgeting and making sure we're staying on top of that and getting closer at like, a predictive spend on there, looking for cost savings. I know Michelle recently attended a conference in which she identified a possibility for us to do some energy savings work and analysis to look at where we can bring down costs wherever we can. Like, if we do an analysis of how we're using, electricity within our building, how can we start to reduce some of that cost by asking teachers to turn off certain items, which we already do, but like, where do we look at where those peaks are? And that would also help us determine, exactly how much of the pool, like what are the total pool costs? And then we would be able to then look at the proportion of the pool costs that potentially are sitting with the use by Nicolay, and then, even if we're waiting that, we would be then able to then charge that into Fund 80 and pull some of the money that is in Fund 80 to make those needed repairs in that area. So trying our best to kind of work to patch those things together and make sure we're staying on top of the general maintenance needs of like the everyday stuff that has to happen here to make this building run, but then also in Parkway run and Good Hope, but then also looking at how we can dedicate some projects as well.
So thank you for all this. I will say, Good Hope, the roof work was approved in 2022. So I guess I would just, you guys have that roof, right? One small section.
Okay, so they did a section of
They
it.
did a portion of it.
The big portion.
Thank you for looking that up, because
Oh, what was
Yeah.
before you, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't know. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
swear I'm not.
well, no, I'm glad you looked,
Yeah.
and like being able to retrieve all of those records too, and
What throws itself at me is that we have a 10-year plan that essentially says we need to spend about 4 million per year, not even taking into account inflation.
Right.
Over 8 years to come. And we're on our miserable tight public school budget, able to conceive of budgeting 400,000. Which is not even anywhere near 4 million, right? If you're just averaging it out. I mean, there's no way we can keep up, but so of course, you know where my head goes, we need new buildings. Rather than spending 45 million to maintain, buildings that are sagging. I'd rather follow our partner schools lead and get new buildings or major renovations, which would require a capital referendum, because we can't upgrade our buildings on the budget that the state legislation allows us to have. That's, my head just goes straight there every time I look at this, because these buildings are very old. They're built in the 60s, right? So what are they now? They're 60,
I think 69.
60 years old, and
Birthplace.
before the
Yeah.
time
Budget
anyone
was
sitting
really-
here, there was a lot of decisions made to defer maintenance. To create the impression of balanced budgets, and here we are. Making up for those decisions now, sort of a NIMBY set of decisions, so. I don't know, that's where my head goes.
Yeah.
I know you guys are doing everything you can on really tight budgets to keep these buildings floating, and, I mean, I feel good when I come in, or what we're looking at, I don't walk in and think, ugh.
And a huge shout out to our custodial
Yeah.
staff for the tremendous work they do
Yeah.
to maintain what's here and
Yeah.
make it look nice.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they do a really nice job of trying to keep up with everything.
Yeah, but it
It's
feels like
a
the
lot of
Parthenon. And at some point, I also think about our maintenance guys. I mean, I live in an old house. There are days when I'm just sort of overwhelmed
Mhm.
by the amount of work an old house needs. And I do worry about the stress that our maintenance staff endures, because they love these buildings and take it really seriously.
Yes,
So
they do.
that's the other thing.
Right.
Chris,
No, thank you for all listening.
anyone else? Wait,
If you do end up pursuing the capital referendum, and if it does pass, and if you do get new buildings or renovate the current ones, I know what Nicolay did for their 10-year capital plan after the referendum passed is they have a bunch of list of items that they know for certain they'll need to replace like 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Then they budget that into each year's budget and set a certain dollar amount aside for that, and that.
oh, they're putting it in a dedicated account. Where it's earning interest.
And
Yeah.
no one can take money out
Yeah.
of that to spend on other things aside from the facilities.
Is that put in a separate count, so it's not counted when you look at like their percentage of their Fund 10 balance?
I know it's a separate fund, I don't know the code.
It's in 46.
Oh, okay, so it's a totally separate fund.
But I don't know if that counts against Gateway. Yeah, they'll budget it out, spread the costs over like 20 years or something, they know they'll have 20 years down the line that way. The board 20 years from now isn't facing the same problems that you all are currently.
And I think, I mean, I will say in just my conversations with other districts throughout the state, I think there's some really like some lessons learned around sort of as people face some of these issues, right? And I think, I mean, I've worked in districts with really old buildings, right? And it's like some of them, they're not built like they used to be, right? Like there's some sturdiness that exists
Right.
there that doesn't always necessarily exist in some of the like somewhat newer buildings. And so when you take a look at some of those components, I think like a general conversation is how do you set up, like when you have something, we have estimated life cycles on things based on where they're put in. If you are building something new, you would know what those life cycles are and plan for that in advance, right? And good planning would require that to happen so that you're not caught off guard and you are anticipating the fix before it comes. And making sure that that's there.
I've always sort of assumed that when Act 10 landed, just planning exploded, right? As people tried to plan ahead and budget.
I'm not sure that's true, though.
You don't think so?
I think that capital improvements have always been profoundly expensive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's just been a historical deferment because
Yeah.
those are very hard decisions to make and
Yeah.
really disruptive things to do.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to push it down, right? And then you get to the point where you can't ignore it. I think one of the hard things in our store is we are all pretty much landlocked, right? So we don't have communities that are growing. We're not like the western communities where you have this population explosion or like, so you don't have.
incentives for that,
Right,
into new land.
and new populations to support that growth,
Yeah.
right?
And at one point in time, if we look at sort of that historical look that we did with those Shaping the Future meetings, when we look at the historical look of this community. It was like a Grafton that's growing right now at one
Right.
point in time, and so like the structure of this school, the structure of. You know, even though they moved some of the schools around, and you know, and then you have a population that's shrinking, I think one of the other things too is really critical that as we look at potential capital changes. We also need to consider a population study and really be honed in on that. I know there is some work done around it, but I think a very detailed population study. In terms of considering what our student enrollment will look like over the
Yeah.
long haul is important to us thinking about how to plan for the future and what is needed, right?
Right, do we need 3 properties?
Right.
Okay, anything else? Anyone? This is very helpful. Thank you for this. Detail. It's good. All right, what are we on to? We're done. Board preview and planning.
We have a PTO meeting coming up at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. YC is coming up on Friday. On Saturday, the Bat Boo Bash is going on in the Glen Hills Free Schoolyard from 2 to 6 p.m. And just kind of an interesting, it's a student planned event that they put together. They have planned, I believe it's the green team has planned different arts and crafts for young children to do. And then they're also going to have somebody come in who is specializes in bats to talk about bats in the evening and kind of their role in our ecosystem. So it should be a great time. So if you have younger children or know people with younger children, encourage them to come out. It'll be really fun.
It'd be cool to have a bat house.
I was just gonna say it.
They do bat houses. That would be cool.
Through my situation with the squirrel and the curve.
I know.
Oh, so that's a good one. Like Mana, and it's like
Wildlife lovers. I feel a little wildlife lovers after I get some out of the garbage cans.
I have one longer term. Oh, sorry, you're not done yet.
Yeah, on 10/14 is our second parent university. This is understanding student academic expectations. It's from 5:30 to 7. Dinner will be served from 5:30 to 6. For families, we are offering childcare for that evening for children ages 2 and above. And we have, it'll be held here at Glen Hills, but it's for both schools. The parents are gonna learn really cool games that are connected to our curriculum and various things to help support their learners at home. So, I think it's a really good event, for parents to understand and get a little window into what happens in the classroom. The PTO sponsored fall festival is from 3 to 6 p.m. at Parkway on 10/18. I have on 10/21, but it isn't. It's the 28th. It's the 28th, so scratch the 10/21 equity committee. And then 10/24, we have our second YAC because we do 2 in the month of October because it's like costume and celebration time. So both our younger set of learners here and our older set of learners here get a special celebration in October.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So volunteer opportunities, if anyone's looking for them, I'm gonna try to sign up for the fall festival. I don't know what kind of volunteer. The longer term planning issue that I've been thinking about is our November workshop, which is scheduled for November 12th. That is directly conflicts with the Nicolay High School Planning Summit, which and I would like to go to. I've signed up for. I think it's great if we can participate. We're community members, we're engaged community members, we have children who are in these schools and are going through these schools. So I'm wondering how you all feel about canceling that November workshop and moving it to a different date. That was gonna be like a goal setting workshop. It's starting to get late for the year for goal setting, but we could still talk about. I mean, if we still want to have a workshop around that. Yep, like board goal setting.
Yeah, and
This
then
was
just previewing into November with probably some talking about after we pass, because we'll pass our budget at the end of October.
Yep.
So some of like probably within that first meeting or potentially the second meeting of November, we will be starting to look at some of our future fiscal planning as well. So there'll be some lift there.
So would there be a value add in having specific board goal setting workshop in December? Is that starting to get too late in the year? I don't know. I mean, there's,
We can still do the rest of the year.
I think what we had talked about loosely was the idea that if we were doing like goal setting, it would be a time to come back to the KPIs and the strategic plan, kind of wrap our head around that and see where our work for the remainder of the year fits in that, supporting what administrators and staff are doing. So maybe it is worth a check-in.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
also
then you're like
therefore-
one trimester in too, if we do it in
Yeah.
December.
So it'd be December 10th.
December 10th.
It would also be informed by having the solid budget.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it would be.
So does that work for everyone? Should we reschedule it then? And then those who can could consider participating in the Nicolay Summit. And if enough of us were there, it would be fun to have the notice form for the Nicolay Summit. But more importantly, we could tag out. Because it's a
Gotcha.
big commitment. So if a couple of us were at each session, we could share out and still get collective knowledge around that. So, okay, then let's cancel the November workshop or reschedule it to
October 10th.
December,
I'm sorry.
December 10th.
December 10th.
Does that work for you, Annie?
Yep, I just checked my calendar, that should be fine.
Okay. All right. Any other weekend planning, my fellow boardies? Your birthday's coming.
Yeah, on the 28th, so I remember when the equity committee meeting.
No, it's your birthday. I'm gonna calendar that. October 28th.
Yeah.
Katie, Avalanche. I'm really bad at birthdays, but you're on my calendar, so
Alright.
maybe I'll remember it.
I try to forget.
Okay, there's only one agenda item left.
Adjourn. Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Katie, all in favor. We are officially adjourned. Good job, we finished on time.
And